Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new ProRevenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Throw a Little Person into the River. We'll teach you a lesson. Yesterday I went kayaking with some friends. Whilst on the river we saw a woman who was obviously a small person. After about 2 miles, we finally took a break on the shore to answer nature's call and drink a beer. Well, after about 10 minutes of sitting there I noticed that a kayak was empty and floating down the river, and about another 5 minutes passed before I saw the woman swimming trying to catch up. I sprung into action, swimming out, grabbing her, and bringing her ashore. If I didn't do that then she would have wound up going through some rapids. Since I have kayaked loads in my life in the Boy Scouts, I had no issues with taking on another person in my one-seat yak. I started talking to her to find out what had happened. I'll call her Bethany from here on out. I was immediately thinking she was just too small for the boat to stay balanced out and it flipped. Nope. She started talking about a group of men that has been harassing her the entire way. Asking her if she floats easier because she's a midget, and saying many other mean and terrible things. They eventually got close enough to flip her kayak over, telling her that she needs to swim to catch up to it. We floated another 7 miles before we got to the end of the line and pulled the kayaks up to the dock. I sent my attractive and bubbly female friend over to talk to the group after Bethany pointed them out. Since they're nothing more than buttholes, they went straight to asking for her number and hitting on her about how good looking she is in her bikini. She started asking if they saw that midget on the river, to which they started laughing and told her what they had done. I was close enough to hear it myself. After she got that information I sent her boyfriend over to start talking about cars with them. They started talking about their sleeper Civic and how they just got a new paint job to make it purple. That's all the information I needed. I told my friend to keep them busy with car talk. This is where it starts getting good. I then ran to the parking lot with another friend to search down this car. After I had found it, we started taking off its 2 front tires. I have a lot of tools in my truck and some jacks I wasn't upset to lose, so this wasn't hard at all. I then sent my fastest running friend to the end of the parking lot with the wheels. When the group of jerks arrived they were freaking out over the wheels. My friend then looked over to them, yelling at them that if they wanted to get home they had to run to catch up to them. He rolled them down and started running for my truck, hopped in, and we started to drive away. I told Bethany that I would take her home if she wanted to stay back and watch Karma smoke them in the face, to which she did. On the way out, we got a good look at how far the tires rolled down the hill. Those puppies had to have rolled a good half mile, and watching 5 fat frat boys trying to run downhill was amazing. I thought that was the end of it, but no it wasn't. By some magical force, the dude that we dished out the revenge to lives close to me. I was outside mowing the front lawn when I saw a purple Civic on the back of a flatbed truck. It finally hit me that the purple Civic used to be the white and green one that sat in the front yard of a house just down the road. The owner? The father of the dude that drove it, and the father of the one who flipped old girl's kayak. Unbeknownst to me, the tire iron that's supposed to be in the car to change wheels in an emergency wasn't in there, so they had to call a tow to get it back. I know why the towing company didn't let them use a tire iron, as it was going to be a better lucrative idea to charge them the full price of a tow. Moral of the story? A really simple one. Don't be a butthole and bully people with disabilities. I just wish I could have heard what the guy said to cover his butt. He more than likely lied, saying he was the victim in all of it, but at least Bethany and I know the truth, and that's all we need. And the best part? After explaining to the kayaking company the situation, Bethany was able to get a full refund and a free pass for another kayaking trip. She invited me and my friends to go with her sometime next week. We'll make sure she doesn't get messed with on that trip. The next one is titled, Steal Expensive Jewelry and Pin It on Me. We'll spend a year plotting revenge. So I worked for Company A for almost a decade that had a small team consisting of 10 people, doing commissioned work for businesses in my city. The owner treated us like family, knowing that we worked long and hard days, sometimes up to 60 hours in a week. He paid us better than expected, bonuses and perks. He negotiated with businesses that commissioned our work, even gave the whole company a week off paid when his son was getting married so we could attend it. We had our squabbles like any other family, and things weren't always bright and perfect, but this is to show how nice the owner treated his employees. And didn't screw me over. After working there for years, the manager position came open. By then I was one of the most senior workers with Company A, so I thought I would apply, which had a few others interested as well. I didn't get the position, mainly because, despite my experience at Company A, I didn't have a business administration degree. Someone who worked for the owner did, so he got it. Realizing the education I would have to get, and the demand of this job, I thought long and hard and concluded that, if I wanted to go anywhere in life, I would have to get that degree. Coming right of high school to work for Company A was great, but if I wanted to do something more I would have to go to university. I talked to the owner and gave my 2 weeks notice. When I explained what I wanted to do and why, he understood that I was trying to make something of myself. This all becomes relevant later. Going to university, I found that I had tuition covered through government grants but not things like food, rent, etc. So I looked around and eventually found work at Company B. Company B was a retail store, with a bigger staff than I had been used to, somewhere around 50 employees, but had such a huge employee turnaround that it was scary at times. They dealt with a wide arrangement of goods from groceries to very expensive items. They had a certain niche clientele that they could order items for and catered to. I ended up working part-time in their warehouse and answered to the warehouse supervisor, who answered to the manager. There were other supervisors for other parts of the store, but for this only the sales supervisor is relevant. Skip forward 7 years. In the time I got my BA degree and worked at Company B the whole time, going from part-time to full, and eventually applied for the warehouse supervisor position. I was interviewed, got the job, been a supervisor for months when the manager and I hired Kay as a warehouse clerk. Kay isn't the one to get the revenge, but she played a crucial part in the revenge. Then idiot B gets hired. B started out as a cashier, working quickly up the chain and brown-nosing as many co-workers as possible, including the manager. When a sales rep went on maternity leave, B quickly jumped at the chance to work in sales and ended up permanently being a part of that team, then the sales supervisor soon after. B and I got along like oil and water. We butted heads over things constantly. She would tell the manager all the small things that I did, but called me a snitch when I reported the issues she was causing. She would badmouth me and my warehouse staff, talk over me at meetings and try to take credit for my ideas. She openly told co-workers that I was the cause of many issues and couldn't wait for me to leave. Oh, and she was never at fault. It would be the customer's fault, my fault, the delivery driver's fault, another co-worker's fault, etc. There were times when we got together well, but far and few between. So one day, a very, and I mean very, expensive ring set, over $5,000 I found out later, ordered by one of our customers, comes in. Years ago, I set up a procedure for any type of jewelry so that it will not get lost or stolen. The last step is, once we have done everything with it in the warehouse, we take it to the office and have someone put it in the safe immediately. This particular time, I was the one who received the rings, so, once going through the procedure, I told Kay that I was taking it to the office. The only one available who had the combination to the safe was B. I asked her if she could open the safe. She looked at me, looked at the jewelry box in my hand, then said, "Put it down here on my desk, I'll put it away once I'm done this email." Keep in mind that B and I had had a serious spat over something earlier that day, and I generally didn't feel like being close to her if I could help it. So I never saw her put it in the safe myself. The next day, I get a call from the manager to come to the office. I head there to find manager, B, and the HR consultant they pull in when some real crap hits the fan. Manager tells me that said ring set has disappeared. I tell them the procedure I followed and last I saw them was with B. Manager tells me that B checked the box and that said box was empty. Manager then pulls the box out. Sure enough, the box the rings were in was indeed empty. I swear to manager that the rings were inside when I checked them before given to B. At this point, it's my word against hers. By a stroke of bad luck, the in-store video recorder had broken down days before the incident, so there was no way to verify what happened. We all know someone has to take the blame for this, and that's when B strikes, saying that it was my fault, since it was last seen in my hands. Manager asks if this is true, then I realize that, yes, I was indeed the last person to touch the thing, and I never actually saw B pick up the box. B gives me the look that screamed gotcha. Manager and the HR consultant ask us both to leave. After what seemed like forever, I get called in. Manager tells me that, since I was responsible for the rings at the time and now are lost, they would be firing me. But, since they had no proof as to whether I stole the rings or not, they wouldn't press charges, which scared the crap out of me as this was the first time I heard of them thinking this. I go back to the warehouse, tell Kay and the other warehouse clerks just what happened, grabbed my personal belongings and left that day. After a couple weeks of trying to get my head around what happened and weighing my options, I decide my first priority is to try to get some sort of job, and consider it lucky if I get a job flipping burgers with the bad rep I'll get when they ask Company B about my previous work history. I call the owner of Company A to get a good reference from them and explain what happened and why I was calling, only to get the shock of a lifetime. The manager position was about to be open. The guy who I lost the position to was retiring soon, due to complicated health reasons. Owner had kept tabs on me while at university and understood when I didn't immediately come back to him, but with a golden opportunity like this, he wanted me back and I wasn't going to say no. I dive into the new job I originally wanted with an owner I enjoyed working for. I thought then and there, everything would be behind me, not knowing it would come back, not to bite me, but to pay dividends. This I found out later. After I was fired, Kay knew she had to do something about B. Kay knew that I wouldn't lose or steal something like the rings. But also knew that, without proof, B would deny that she did it and have Kay in her crosshairs to attack next. So, after talking with her husband, she hatched a plan. She started hanging out with B, telling her things like, "I'm so glad he's gone," or "wish he had been fired much earlier." B, feeling high from getting rid of one of her thorns in her side, soaked it all in, and after a couple of weeks, invited Kay and Kay's husband, from now on KH, for drinks at her place with her and B's husband, BH. Months pass, Kay and KH do things regularly together with B and BH, including drinking on weekends and couple-related events. When together, Kay would occasionally bad-mouth me, and B would agree. Finally, after over a year of playing nice, when Kay and KH were over at B's for one of their drinking parties, Kay randomly bad-mouthed me, mentioning the rings in passing. Then B says something that Kay was waiting for. "I wanted those rings, so I stole them." Kay, upon hearing this, asks for more details. KH looks at her, tries to wave her off with one hand, then gives up when B keeps talking. That day, B had stopped writing her email and was going to put the rings in the safe. The safe was open and she was about to put the rings away when B had an idea. See, as mentioned above, B wanted me gone from Company B. She also wanted those rings. She also knew that the cameras weren't working. She figured that she could pocket the rings, tell the manager they were missing, and spin it so I would take the blame. Kay then asks where are the rings now, and B, being too drunk and not seeing a reason not to brag, not only tells her but shows her where they are in her room. All while KH had been recording the whole conversation on his phone. The hand waving was him saying he started recording. Kay gives a copy of the recording to manager the next workday. Police are called immediately, B is arrested and her house is raided. They find the rings. Kay and KH give the recording and testimonies to the police. B's reckoning has begun. I eventually get a call from the prosecutor's office after B is arrested and charged with theft over $5,000, among other things. He wants me to testify about what she did to me. I didn't skip a beat in saying yes. Fast track to the trial, the prosecutor has me, Kay, and KH testify and plays the recording of B admitting that she stole them. Her attorney tries to throw out the case saying that Kay got B deliberately drunk, but the judge didn't buy it since there was proof she drank all the time. The judge was lenient and gave her 5 years in prison, which she yelled was unfair, but I personally thought she got off easy. Meanwhile, as the trial was happening, I was talking with a lawyer to sue B for setting me up like she did. We were also going to sue Company B for wrongful termination, but they settled the day they got notice of the lawsuit and knew they would lose. B wasn't so lucky. They tried some trickery by having BH divorce her and he received everything in the divorce, but my lawyer added him into the lawsuit as well. My lawyer asked overall for $3,500 for emotional distress, back pay from when I was fired until I started up with Company A again, and legal fees. And now, you are wondering where the metaphoric cherry is on this story? Well, years after all this, we had someone leave Company A, so we were hiring someone to replace them. The owner was going over the resumes and set up interviews for the job this week. Lo and behold, B was one of the people to apply, but he didn't know that. I looked at the resume, was about to trash it, but then smiled. Owner set up the interview. She came in at her slotted time, looking to brown nose her way through. Then she saw me. I smiled an evil smile, she went white. All I said was, B, how are you? Remember me? A deer in the headlight look from her. I look at her resume and say, I'm sorry, I do not think you will be a good fit for our company. Thank you for applying. The next one is titled, Make Me Work Against Policy? We'll throw you a good riddance party. So back in my 20s I worked for a large national sewer and drain company called Roto-Rooter, a great job, and a great place to work where I was lucky enough to be trained by some of the most skilled technicians in the industry. There was however one supervisor. Let's call him Billy. Now Billy was your typical kiss-up who spent most of his time trying to please anyone who he thought held any influence, the senior techs, or power, the branch and regional manager, and loved to lord his power. He made the shift schedules and scheduled time off over anyone who he thought he could push around. A typical interaction with one of the big earners, this is a commission job, would be something like, hey, you need a day off? Sure, just let me know when and I will be happy to help you. While he was dealing with a new hire or a low earner, you were lucky if he would pick up the phone or take a second to hear you out. So one night around my 3rd month on the job, I was sent to a mortuary to do some work. It's the gross, hazardous jobs like that pay really well, maybe $200 in your pocket for an hour's work. When it was done, I called and told him I was taking the rest of the night off due to some chemicals in their sewer making me feel a little woozy and I didn't think it would be safe for me to operate heavy machinery. He flipped out and told me that if I didn't get back on the road I would have a disciplinary hearing the next day, to which I said, sure, can't wait to see you there. As soon as I walked in I requested someone from HR to be present as well as our assigned safety officer. The safety officer position in the company is very important, as the company is self-insured and any safety violation can get you fired on the spot. I let Billy go first and he says, you can't leave whenever you want from your shift, you are getting a warning and next time I am going to fire you. I calmly reach into my bag and pull out our employee handbook and begin to read. While I don't remember the exact phrasing, it goes something like this: if you feel at any time that the situation or job you are on is dangerous, or may lead to a dangerous situation, you are to stop immediately. There was another section about being inebriated, exposed to methane gas from the sewer, being lightheaded, etc. And how you should go home and not operate any equipment under those conditions. It even went so far as to say that transportation would be paid for by the company if you didn't feel safe driving. They were very big on safety since any insurance claims would be paid by them directly. I asked the safety manager if I did anything wrong and he supported me 100%. Then I asked HR what they thought and they said if it's a safety issue you go home and don't worry about your shift. At this point, the regional manager asked me to leave the office and I hear him rip into Billy like a fat kid into cake. That should have been enough for me, but I am petty. I never forgive and I am very patient. As time goes on I become one of the top earners in my city, get Rookie of the Year my first year and Salesman of the Year my second, and Billy gets a reputation for being lazy and irresponsible. My 2nd year at the company, Billy is put on probation and this is where I go into ProRevenge mode. I gather up all the new guys and some of my buddies from my shift and I organize them so at least once or twice a week someone goes in there to complain about Billy. We never lied, we just knew what buttons to push to get him to self-destruct. New guys would ask for a day off, or someone would take a sick day during a busy shift, etc. Finally, the branch manager snaps and calls Billy into his office. He demotes him to a salesman and puts him on my shift. At a company like this, the shifts become very close. We all talk in our trucks through our radios while waiting for jobs, and we all help each other when needed. During Billy's first few weeks on the road, our supervisor makes sure he gets all the fun jobs, flooded basements, tight spaces, and generally anything that will get him absolutely covered in poop. And, of course, as all this was happening, I had every single person I was friends with at the company call him and ask him for scheduling changes, so he had to explain to about 30 people how he was demoted and no longer a manager. Eventually, Billy broke. He started crying to the dispatcher about how he couldn't take it anymore, and quit. The next day, 2 other guys and I threw a Billy's Gone party with cake and pizza at a neighborhood bar, put up signs in the office and made a general announcement in the morning when we went in to hand in paperwork when we knew Billy would be there to give in his 2 weeks' notice. He actually came up to us to thank us, and I got the pleasure of informing him that he's not invited. It's not a going away party, it's a you're gone party. It wouldn't make sense for you to be at a party where we are celebrating you not being around anymore. In the end, only about 20 of the 50 employees at the branch showed up, but it was still a great party. The last one is titled, Scam My Brother Out of $1,500? We're too smart to let you off the hook. This isn't really my story, but it's my brother's. However, since we're very close siblings, he asked for my help to get the upcoming revenge, and this is how I know this story so well. This happened a couple of years ago when my brother was selling his brand new laptop he bought for work shortly after he graduated college with a degree in computer sciences. He's very, very smart. Anyways, he posted his new laptop on OfferUp, seeing as how the company that just hired him said they'd buy him an even newer computer because every employee needs this specific one and the company provides it for them. So he gets a couple of offers, all low-balling him. It's brand new and barely used. So he's not having it. But this one guy, we'll call him A, doesn't even make an offer. Just asks if my brother uses Venmo, the money exchange app. At the time, my brother and I both used it to pay each other for phone bills and whatever else someone might owe the other person. It's pretty useful. So since we trust the app, he responds yes. The guy says he'll Venmo the full amount he was asking for, right then and there. This is a 2015 MacBook Pro and it's around August of 2017. So this model is still one of the best on the market at the time. Worth almost $2,000, my brother was selling it for $1,500. To get $1,500 of the $2,000 would have been amazing for him, seeing as how no one is gonna buy his laptop at full price from OfferUp. My brother is stoked. He agrees, contacts the guy on Facebook, makes the transaction and meets up with him to give the laptop to him once Venmo notified him and said, A has paid you $1,500. My brother is satisfied and moves on with his life. Later, over the next few days, he notices that Venmo never put the money into his bank account and the app no longer said the money was paid to him. He called Venmo to ask them why, and they said that the funds bounced. He already gave the laptop to A. My brother is furious. He went off on them about why they would even have the app say the funds are available when they don't even know for sure. They told him, it's a family and friends app to repay for little things, which only upset him more because that's just a stupid way to say, sorry we lost your money we said we had for you. So my brother tried to fix it himself. He tried contacting her to see if it was just a simple mistake on his end. Wouldn't you know? Deleted his profile on OfferUp and blocked him on FB. Just so you know, you don't just get a degree in computer science for free. My brother is one smart mofo. He asked his co-workers at his job if they were also selling a computer they bought since the company bought them all laptops. Some were selling theirs too and he asked if they were using OfferUp. One said he was and my brother wanted to know if anyone had asked him if he used Venmo instead of making an offer. At first, he was confused as to how my brother knew that. He said the first response he got to his post was from someone asking if he used Venmo. His coworker never heard of Venmo before and just ignored it and waited for another offer. It all started to make sense to my brother now. This guy was scamming people for their stuff, very expensive stuff, and turning around and selling it even cheaper for a profit. So my brother sets up a little trap. Enter little bro. Me. I just got out of the Marines and was attending college when my brother dropped this whole story on me. I was upset. No one messes with my brother like that. So I'm already on board to get this dude. So the plan was simple. I make a post on OfferUp for the same laptop at a similar price and wait for one, and only one, response. Do you use Venmo? I was skeptical at first. My first thought was, there's no way this guy is that dumb to use the same line in every scam. But thank God he was. Not even 20 minutes after I posted on OfferUp and there it was. Do you use Venmo? I quickly text my brother with a simple "got him" and he tells me exactly what to say to set up this meeting. I get out of school and we head over to the meeting together. On the way, he's asking me, should we just teach this dude a lesson? I mean, you know exactly how to mess someone up, right? They taught you that in the Marines, right? I've never seen my brother upset about anything before. But I'm on board all the way and I told him, well duh. But is it worth possibly going to prison over? I mean, I'll definitely do it. But this might bite back at us. Someone had to talk at least a little sense. My brother, hearing that, calmed down a little and thought it might be best to get the police involved. So we Google where the nearest police station is to the meeting place and I couldn't believe it. I lived right next to a police station. You can't make this crap up. So we went into the police station and told them the whole story, showed all the evidence we had on our phones and said we already have a meeting set up and just want to bring him in and get the property back. They were surprisingly helpful. I didn't think they would be that quick to help us, but they didn't even hesitate. However, they told us we couldn't go along due to personal involvement, but they will have 2 detectives handle it so no one gets into a physical confrontation. But we persuaded them to let us ride along so they know they got the right guy. The revenge. The time to meet had finally arrived. My brother is with one detective camped out up the street in a sleek black car with all tinted windows that just screamed, "I'm a cop," while I'm with the officers in a patrol car down the opposite side of the street. I told the cop about my service and I can help if needed, but he insisted I stay in the car. I told him obviously if he is in trouble, I'm gonna help. He smiled and said he understood. Meanwhile, the other detective is waiting patiently for A sends me a text saying, "Sorry I can't meet up, I don't have enough money." I think, oh crap, we're losing him. We didn't just go to all this trouble getting the police involved to back out now. Hell no. So I respond with, I can accept a payment plan. Half now half later since I'm already here. I'm so goddamn glad. This guy is an idiot. How much more obvious can a trap be? He agrees and sends me what I assume is a fake amount of $680 of the agreed $1,300 and comes strolling out of his apartment, head held high like he's about to make the biggest payday ever. I hear over the radio from the detective who's waiting for him, got visual. Blue shirt, camo shorts. Making contact. The silence between those 2 phrases was deafening. But as soon as we heard making contact, the cop I'm with floors IT from our position. Flips the lights on, zips past 5 cars and sees the dude standing in front of the detective, making small talk. He jumps out and grabs the dude's arms, puts them behind his back and starts repeating himself, "Don't fight back. Don't make this harder for yourself." Over the radio, the detective says, "Detained." A goes bright white and is so confused and scared I almost pooped myself laughing. The sleek black car my brother is in drives by and I hear over the radio, "That's him, it was my brother." He was so pumped our plan actually worked. Shortly followed by the detective he was with, 100% confirmation. Make the arrest and bring him in. They were actually really surprised at how well we set this up for them and how smoothly it all went down. They didn't have to do anything but show up and make the arrest. Back at the station, A is being questioned by police. Meanwhile, my brother is like, "I just want my stuff back." So the cops raided A's apartment and forced A to give back my brother's $2,000 laptop. Luckily, he still had it, but we later learned that it was for sale on A's new OfferUp account. Afterward, the police told my brother since he got his stuff back there's not much else they can do except give him a citation and let the court system handle the rest. My brother sat and thought about it for a second and he would not accept that. During the questioning, he opened the door to the questioning room to find the detective and officers all turning to the door ready for a fight, then relaxing when they saw it was just him. Apparently you don't want to just barge in unannounced, they don't like that. But he asks the detective to talk for a second. My brother goes over the evidence one more time and literally shows him the 3 times in 1 week that jerk has scammed people. First him, second his coworker, who luckily didn't fall for it, and third me, the setup. There's no way this guy hasn't been doing this for a while. The detective agreed with my brother that it's blatantly obvious this guy had a system in place and they decided to do more digging. Last I heard, A owes $30,000 in stolen goods and is serving time in prison. I don't know for how long. But it felt so good to see the satisfaction on my brother's face. Thanks for listening.